What's up, positive bitches? How are we doing today? If you're hearing this episode, then you are meant to be here, so keep listening. On that Bitches Positive podcast, sometimes we will laugh, other times, baby girl, we're gonna cry, but we will always walk away feeling our most empowered, positive bitch self. That is babe in true connection with herself. On this podcast, we unbecome who we are not, so we can fully step into exactly who we came here to be. Today we're talking about the invisible string theory. This is a theory that I've seen all over TikTok. It has now entered my reality, and I also have some personal stories that I'm going to share with you. This theory can bring us peace, it can bring us comfort, and it can remind our mind, our ego that wants to control everything, that actually we don't have to. This theory will help you rest into your divine feminine energy. It will help you attract rather than chase. And if you do deal with anxiety, it will quell those thoughts and those feelings. Before we get into it, a couple of announcements. If you're not yet following me on Instagram, be sure to follow me at Vibin with Cici, Vibin with Ciicii. I also have a new song coming out. The song will be called Pudding. It's coming out July 17th, so 717. This song will remind you of your true value and what you deserve to have in relationships. If you have been going through situationships, you feel like you're not getting what it is you deserve, you need the confidence to ask for more, this song will take your vibration and mold it. It will shift you into a frequency to place yourself back on your own pedestal. If you want to get the link for this song, I will put the pre-save in the show notes, and I can't wait for you to have it. Very excited for that. Also, if you've not gotten your copy, Show Up As Her, which is my book that recently came out. It is 10 laws on how to step into your most magnetic timeline, how to reverse engineer the reality you want. Of course, it's all about remembering your worth, your value, and so much more. But without further ado, let's get into today's episode. My reason for talking about the invisible string theory is because I had an experience that I cannot chalk up to anything but divine intervention. I frequently do a trail near my house, and oftentimes when I'm on this trail, I get visions and spiritual downloads and energetic insights that I don't normally get when I'm using my mind, when I'm in my masculine energy. When we do everyday tasks, such as taking a walk or washing the dishes or doing laundry, it puts us into this sort of energy where our subconscious mind becomes wide open and we're able to receive messages we are not able to be receptive to when we're using our frontal lobe. So while I was on this long walk, this trail, if you would, I started to get this vision of Jesus threading my neck with a red thread, almost like sewing it together. And I thought to myself, well, that's really weird, but okay, yeah, Jesus, give me eyes to see, ears to hear, keep it going. And while I was doing this trail, which was about an hour, I just kept seeing this vision over and over and over again, and the thread was expanding, and eventually my guides and my angels were also helping thread these different parts of me, quelling wounds that maybe I had from my past. And I just so vividly saw this red thread being sewn into my being. And before I get off this trail, I'm at the end of it. I'm about to get to the parking lot. There's a red thread on this trail. I've never seen any thread on this trail, but the fact that for an hour I've been having this vision and now there's a red thread on the floor, I will insert the picture on YouTube. Something was just divine about it. It's like an angel took my head and said, look down, and I took a picture of the thread. I took the thread home, and it's now on my altar. With this being said, I started to question, well, what is this red thread all about? And I started to do some research. What is the invisible string theory? The invisible string theory is that there are these unseen threads that connect us to the people we're meant to experience, the places we're meant to experience, our divine destinations, opportunities, everything in this life that we're meant to come into contact with. The invisible string theory says that we are divinely connected to it by this unseen thread, and it will be pulled towards us at the right time. The right person or thing will come into your life when you need it the most, when it's needing to teach you a lesson, when you need support. It won't come in any sooner and it won't come in any later. It will come in at the exact right time. And a lot of people who experience this invisible string theory or believe that they do, they have noticed that they actually have crossed paths with this person a bunch of times in their past. And it's almost as if this place, this opportunity, this person is essentially hidden in plain sight. And you will go by this person a billion times, but if it's not the right time, the universe, God, your angels won't connect you until you're meant to meet. Now, there's a very similar concept to the invisible string theory that comes from ancient Chinese philosophy, and it's called the red string of fate. The red string of fate, according to ancient Chinese philosophy, is the belief that there's this invisible, not just string, but red thread that connects those who are destined to meet regardless of time, place, or circumstance. It's pretty much the same thing. They're just adding in the color red now. This thread might stretch, tangle, it might completely go in all these different designs, but it will never break, symbolizing the unbreakable connections between people. This idea reflects a broader understanding of the interconnectedness and destiny in Chinese culture, suggesting that certain relationships are preordained and very significant. There is this whole entire story that there was this lunar matchmaker god in ancient Chinese philosophy, and this lunar matchmaking god would tie a red thread. It changes depending on the culture, but would either tie a red thread around their ankles or one of their fingers at birth. And it signified that even if these people went to different schools or they moved to different cities or towns or states or countries, this red thread would stretch and stretch and stretch. And at the right time, it would bring them back together because at birth, according to this myth, this god tied a red string around their ankle or their fingers. So it's really interesting to think about the invisible string theory or the red thread of fate, which is essentially the same thing. And it brings in the question, well, do we have free will then? How does this work with our divine plan? I think that we have specific destiny points in our life that we are meant to hit. However, how you get there, I think, is all up to your decisions. It's kind of like if you're at school, you can take 5 different paths to get home, and it's up to you which path you want to take, but ultimately you're still going to get home. So I think that it's our decision how we get to where we're meant to be, but I do think there's this element of fate of we're meant to be experiencing certain people, we're meant to experience certain places, we're meant to experience certain opportunities, but how we get there, I really do think is up to us. We can take path A, path B, path C, but maybe there is this red thread that is pulling us towards it regardless of the path that we take. And the only reason I have any belief in this is because of the vision that I experienced was so vivid and felt so real that I really resonate with this red thread of fate. And I was talking to my shaman and we were talking exactly about this, and she was saying it's so amazing because this red string of fate, no matter how far you go away from what's meant for you, it will come back around because the thread can stretch and it can bend and it can twist and it can tangle, but it will never break. And I think this can give us some ease in our body that if someone did leave your life and you desperately want them to come back, first of all, refocus on you, take the 21-day breakup glow up challenge. Link will be in the bio. But if they're really meant to be in your life, they will come back around. They will come back around by way of this invisible string theory. The really interesting thing as I was researching this theory is that a lot of the people who said that they experienced this theory, they said that they have passed one another in their lives so many times. It just never worked out before. And then for whatever reason, the timing was right. And so they connected. They went to the same school. They were born in the same hospital, but then they went their separate ways and ended up coming back together. Literally this weekend, I went to my cousin's wedding, and their story of how they met, they were saying it at the wedding, it is the invisible string theory. I'm going to give them pseudonyms for what their names are, but let's just say Gabby and Ron got married this weekend. Ron is my cousin. In high school, Ron was invited to prom by this girl, Jane, let's call her. So my cousin Ron goes to Jane's prom, which is at a different school. And while he's at Jane's prom, he meets one of Jane's best friends, Gabby. So Ron is having fun, kind of with Jane, kind of dating, nothing too serious. And they're at prom. He's meeting her friends. He meets Gabby. Everyone was hanging out. All went well. They graduated from high school. They go off to college. And one day, Ron was walking around in the library. He was becoming a lawyer, now is a lawyer. And Ron runs into Jane's friend, Gabby. And Gabby stops him in the library and goes, Ron, do you remember me? You came to my school's prom with Jane. Jane is one of my very, very good friends. And Ron was like, oh my God, yeah, I remember you. I remember you at that prom. I remember that experience. And then they just started talking. Fast forward, they start dating, they fall in love, and now they're getting married. And at their wedding, Jane was one of the bridesmaids for Gabby and Ron. This is how the invisible string theory works. You will cross paths. Gabby and Ron cross paths when her friend Jane brought Ron to their prom. And it wasn't the right time. And for whatever reason, they weren't meant to connect in that moment, but they happened to be in one another's lives. Fast forward years and years and years later, Gabby and Ron see one another at the library. They start talking, they hit it off, and now they are married. I think sometimes we're praying to God, I'm waiting on you. Where's my person? When is it going to happen? And I think sometimes God just wants to say, actually, don't wait on me because I'm waiting on you. If your person isn't in your life right now, most likely it's not because you're waiting on God. It's because God's waiting on you. You need to plug into you. You might have to work on your vibration. You might have to meet other people. You might have to learn certain lessons before you're able to come into the right vibration to align with your person. You might have to work on your vibration, learn certain lessons, release karma, really detox older lower vibrational emotions. And your person, by the way, might have to too. Gabby and Ron, if they got together in high school, maybe they would have been too immature, not in the right vibration, not right for one another at the time. And it would have caused them to break up and they wouldn't have been able to be together forever, get married, make those vows. We have to remember that even with the invisible string theory, the red thread of fate, divine timing plays a part. There's a season for everything. You might need to work on you right now. And if you're not in a relationship, well, then yes, you need to be working on you. And maybe your person has to be working on themselves. So pray for them, but more importantly, focus on you and what you need to do in your life. Because according to this theory, at the right time, in the right moment, when your vibration is a good match for that other person, you will come together. A similar story to my cousin Ron is my parents went to the same high school. While they were actually in high school, they never spoke. They never purposely hung out with one another. One night, my mom's friend, her best friend, was begging her to go out. And my mom said she didn't want to. She already put vitamin E on her face. She was in one of those moods to just stay in. But her friend was like, please, please, please come out. And then my dad's friend was also begging him to go out. He also didn't want to go out. And eventually they did end up meeting. My point is, though, do you know how many times they probably crossed one another in the hallway? Do you know how many times they were probably at the same party and didn't even realize it? Do you know how many times they were probably in the parking lot at the same time on the same day, but their backs were towards one another? Do you know how many sporting events they were probably at for their high school at the same time? How many school dances, how many concerts, how many local events they were both at? But none of those moments were right for them to meet until they finally did meet. We need to remember divine timing. We don't have to control everything. If you are trying to force someone to like you, you're trying to manipulate yourself so that you can make ends meet. You don't need to be doing all of that. And actually, if you are, you're most likely delaying the right person at the right time because you're so focused on the wrong person at the wrong time. I find that a lot of the time people will focus on romantic connections when it comes to the invisible string theory, but this has to do with all connections, everything and everyone. Even in my high school experience, I wasn't really close with this girl, but I was acquaintances with her. And it wasn't until we got to college that we got extremely close. And now she's one of my favorite people. For whatever reason, we weren't in vibrational alignment really in high school. And it wasn't until after high school that we both watered ourselves as individuals that we ended up rising to the same level and reconnecting and becoming so close. It reminds me of that quote, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So really, this is about whoever or whatever is meant to be in your life will find you at the right time. Your main focus should be taking care of you, your mind, body, and soul, so that these things can find you. Because if you're manipulating yourself, all that is for you can't find you. If you're trying to shut down parts of yourself, all that's meant for you won't be able to find you. If you're trying to dim your light, those things that are meant for you will have a harder time finding you. Your job is to water yourself so you can grow so high, be the highest tree in the forest, so everything that is meant for you can find you easily. We don't want to delay our own process because we're trying to fit in with the wrong people when the right ones are out searching for us. I'm going to say it again. Whoever or whatever is meant to be in your life will find you. That teacher, that mentor, that relationship, that friend will find you in the right place at the right time. I encourage you, instead of looking out there, to really focus on watering yourself, on watering yourself in your current season. This doesn't mean that we don't have any control. Reminder, your husband will recognize you. Your soulmate friends will recognize you. Your mentor will recognize you. The energy vampires of this world will also recognize you. You still have to use discernment because you do have control over your own damn life. You have so much power over your life. We are not powerless. And we're not in complete control. We are in the Tao, the middle way. We have a lot of control, but we don't hold all of the control. You're not in this human experience alone. You have power, but it's like you're in business with God. So there are certain things that you need to focus on, like watering yourself, knowing what it is you want, clarifying your thoughts, your vision, your heart's desires, waking up every day and deciding on the attitude you wish to broadcast into the universe over what you eat, what you wear, what you give your attention to. You have so much power. You are in co-creation with God. Your responsibility is the what, and leave it up to God for the how. So it's not that we're in complete control, and it's not that we're powerless. We are in the middle. We are in partnership with this God source energy. So you're not alone, and you're not powerless. I think it's important to reflect on the experiences that are being presented to you. Because when you're out and about, and let's just say you're dating, because I know a lot of us are, and there's someone that's being presented to you that is triggering your nervous system, before you tell yourself, oh, I messed up my vibration and I attracted someone of a lower vibration, reflect on the experience. Wait a second. I'm not falling for this being chemistry like I used to. I'm recognizing that this is just triggering my nervous system. I'm recognizing I'm having awareness of my older faulty programming. I'm recognizing I'm having awareness that I don't want to just have a chemical cocktail in my head. I want a cosmic connection. I don't believe we're being tested, but I think we're being trained. And in order to be trained well, you have to repeatedly go up against resistance to build muscle. When something is presented, even if you don't like what is being presented, you can learn from it. And the more you're presented with contrast, the more you can clarify what it is you do want. If you go on a date with someone and you don't like them, okay, clarify to the universe what it is you do want. And every time you have contrast, you're further clarifying and getting closer and closer and closer to that which you wish to receive. What is being presented to you and what is it teaching you? That's what we need to recognize. So we're using discernment with what is being presented to us. We're not just accepting it because, oh, there's an invisible string that's bringing this person to me. No, you have to use discernment because not everything or everyone is meant to be your husband. It's also interesting, though, that let's say your discernment isn't ticking correctly and you do close the door on an opportunity that maybe is meant for you or a person who is really good for you. If you reject a high path or a high vibrational person and they have this so-and-so thread attached to you, they are meant to be in your life, I do believe they will present themselves again. And the way I think about this is like a navigation system. If you take a wrong turn to the left, your navigation system will immediately reroute you to get back on course so that you can get to where you're going. Abraham Hicks states that the universe is completely neutral, but I disagree. I believe that this electromagnetic field is always inviting us to get back on track, is always extending an energetic invitation for us to go to a higher path, is always extending an arm out, reaching out for us to get us to where it is we truly need to go and where we want to go. If you reject someone or something that is meant to be in your life, it will come back around. It will come back around. Why? Because this thread, remember what it does. It can completely stretch. It can tangle. It can twist. It can go in any shape or form, but it will not break. So you don't have to worry about leaving something, even if you truly love it, because it will come back around if it's for you. Even in my last relationship, there was good, but ultimately it wasn't a vibrational fit for this time being. And I have to trust that, well, if this person is meant to be with me, they'll come back around. And if they're not, a better vibrational fit will come in. I want to share some moments that I found online that people have shared about the invisible string theory, because maybe you've had this in your own life and you didn't recognize it. Also, it can help build belief and ease anxiety if you do have any about your current circumstances. So the first story is about this girl, and she was really young, and her mom told her, get in front of this random, quote unquote, random cop car. I want to take a picture of you in front of it. So this mom takes a picture of her little daughter, and it's in front of cop car 209. That's what was on the license plate. This girl ends up growing up. She ends up dating this man. She ends up marrying this man. And this man ends up becoming a cop. And what number is his car? But 209. And she has the picture of her being a toddler in front of this 209 cop car, and then her current husband in front of his 209 cop car. Story 2. Earlier this year, I decided to get a tattoo of a forester in memory of my grandma Jean and her beloved Subi. I randomly found an artist I liked through Instagram and I shot him an email. He replied saying he was stoked to do this tattoo because he himself owns a 2003 green saber forester just like the one my grandma had. When I pulled up to the shop on the day of my appointment, his car was parked out in front and I noticed something. The bumper stickers my grandma had put on her car 20 years prior were on his car. Yes. He somehow came to own the exact car I had reached out to him to tattoo on me. So this girl reaches out to this guy on Instagram, hey, can you give me this tattoo of my grandma's car? And he somehow owned the grandma's car. This is how all of these things are cosmically connected. There is so much that we're worrying about when really we don't have to worry about anything. We can just surrender to the divine plan at play and everything will be delivered to us. This next story I think is my favorite. In 96, my family moved to a new town and I started my first year at a new high school. To make friends, I joined a peer group and we would twice a week go to a church for friendship building. I never really clicked with anyone and instead would spend my time out in the church cemetery wandering around. I was always drawn to a particular grave by the pond of a fairly young man who passed a few years prior. I would sit and chat with the grave, but then my family moved away the next year. I would still drive up occasionally to visit this grave. I kept my love of cemeteries as I grew up, and I even became a funeral director in 2018. I started dating a man who also loved cemeteries, so one of our first dates, we went to the cemeteries of our ancestors. When we arrived at the cemetery of his dad an hour away, I said, hey, I know this cemetery. I used to come here as a child. I would go over to this exact stone, which happened to be his dad's grave. Is that not beautiful, connected, divine? Come on now. Now, again, this doesn't just have to be about people. It can even be about items. There was this guy named Yaron, and he had a picture of him and his brother. It was so cute, these two little babies, and they're both in these jean jackets and these little beanies. In this jacket, the mom wrote Yaron's name in it because, you know, when you have little kids, you oftentimes write their names on the tags of their clothing just in case it gets lost at school or at camp. So his mom wrote Yaron in the little denim jacket. This little denim jacket eventually was given away. They donated it when they lived in Tennessee. Years and years and years later, Yaron is a grown adult. He gets married. He has a kid of his own. He lives in Alaska. His wife happens to be thrifting baby clothes, and she picks up this cute little denim jacket, and she looks at the tag, and inside is very faded, but it says Yaron. So she freaks out, and she shows him, and then they realize, oh my God, this was my denim jacket as a kid. And they even found the picture where he was wearing the denim jacket with his brother. And this was not related to them finding this denim jacket in the thrift store, but Yaron's mom happened to unknowingly knit the same type of hat she knitted for Yaron as a child. So essentially, Yaron's son is wearing the exact outfit that Yaron wore in that photo, because the mother knitted him a hat just like Yaron had, and now the baby is wearing Yaron's exact jacket. What can we take away from the invisible string theory or the red thread of fate? What I believe we can take away is peace. We can know that there is this red thread that's pulling us towards our destiny, pulling us towards the right people at the right time in the right place, pulling us towards the things that we're meant to experience. We don't have to worry because there's a divine plan at play unfolding for us. And even if it's not on our radar, it's on our higher selves radar, it's on God's radar, it's on the electromagnetic field we reside in, it's on that radar. We don't have to control other people, we don't have to force situations, and we don't have to manipulate ourselves. In fact, when something is truly meant for us, it's not going to feel that it's an uphill battle the whole entire time. There will always be moments of contrast, but if you feel like every day you are going into battle, going into fight, that's a sign you have to surrender, because maybe this place, this person, this circumstance is not meant for you, and you're just depleting yourself for no good reason. Whatever is meant to come in your life, it will find you. You don't have to worry about anything outside of you. You just have to refocus on you. I think it's also important to remember that the person you want, even if you're ready, relationships are tricky because they also have to be ready. They have to be in the right vibration. You actually don't want to align with your person sooner than you're supposed to, because then they can mess it up or you can mess it up. And what if it's such a deep wound that you can never get over it, and then you miss out on the long term because you wanted to get together too soon? It's not supposed to be an uphill battle the whole entire time. And when it is, I do think that is a sign that we need to surrender, and we need to reflect, we need to refocus, and we need to redefine what it is we do want. Your blessings, they know where you live. They will be delivered. The right people for you, the right circumstances, the right places, it will somehow come into your life. It will call you. It will want to be near you. It will keep coming back until you feel ready to receive it. Your job is to focus on watering you. I really love the affirmation, I'm always at the right place at the right time. I recently went on a pilgrimage, and there was this one part that I was like, ugh, I don't really want to do this. But then I remembered the red string, my red thread experience. I'm being pulled to the right places at the right time. For whatever reason, I'm meant to be here. Maybe I'm having a spiritual upgrade, an energetic upgrade, a physical upgrade. I don't always have to know how the universe is working in my favor to remember and have faith that it is. I don't always have to understand and create meaning about every single experience to know that it is working for me. I'm always at the right place at the right time. And when I reminded myself of that mantra, I just felt at ease again. I felt good in my own skin again. I felt like I could relax again. And now I've been wearing red strings on me because that experience that I had on the trail was so profound to my internal world that it just will never leave me. And I hope that this podcast leaves you with some peace, that you are listening to the right podcast at the right time in the right place, and you're connected to the right people. And if they're not the right people, they will be cosmically canceled from your reality, and you don't have to worry about it. I love you so much. If you have suggestions for next week's podcast, you can DM me on Instagram at vibingwithcc. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a positive review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It really helps this podcast grow. And if not for me, do it for you, because good karma. And I will see you in the next one. Mwah.